Hi, this is Joseph Williams, son of John Williams, and you are watching the Nerf Herder Council.
What is up, everybody, and welcome to a special Monday night edition of the Nerf Herder Council. I am your host, AJ. I have a special co-host I'll bring on in just a minute, but I wanted to welcome you to this watch-along of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So, as you know from our last episode about what was that, last Wednesday, I believe, we covered the Steve Rogers trilogy of Captain America films, getting ready for Captain America 4, Brave New World, which comes out on Thursday of this week. So we decided it was time to catch up with the series that actually bridges the Captain America movies prior and the one that's coming out this week. So if you notice, we have a shiny new layout here for the screen graphics. So if you're wondering where you can find our show, we are available live streaming on Patreon, on Twitch, on our Facebook page, and on our YouTube channel. You can listen to the audio version of this podcast 4 days later on Sundays on Spotify, on Google Podcasts. Sorry, not Google Podcasts. It is now YouTube Music and Apple Music. Anywhere else you get your podcasts, we are there thanks to our RSS feed. Now, if you want that audio broadcast 2 days early, you can subscribe to our Patreon for just $1 a month. You will get that audio version replay on Fridays instead of Sundays when we do bi-weekly Wednesday shows. We also have down at the bottom, we have our social connections here. So we've got our Patreon page. We've got a Discord server that we just spun up. So please join us on there. Let's keep the conversation going between episodes. We've got our X handle there, and we are also on Blue Sky as well. So you can reach us on all of those platforms. Feel free to drop us a line with show ideas, comments, anything that you think is hilarious, stupid, or might piss JT off about space whales. We'd love to hear it. Without further ado, I'm going to bring on my special co-host for tonight. This guy is in the family, and he's a bit of a comic book nerd as well. Mr. Joe Sarah, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here. So excited to revisit this. I haven't seen it in a minute. So
now the camera resolution doesn't quite show, but I believe behind you there is a whole series of omnibus hardcovers, right?
Yeah, there's
a few. You are a hardcore Marvel Comics collector, yeah?
I have, quite a few collected editions. Yeah, I can turn the camera around later if you'd like to see.
So how familiar are you with the Captain America characters like Winter Soldier, Bucky, Sam Wilson as the Falcon, all these kind of people?
Pretty familiar. I think I've read mostly everything that's been published since like 96. So
okay, so you're up on all this stuff then.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't read the monthly floppies, but when they get bound into collected editions, I usually grab them. So did you freeze? Looks like I'm running this thing solo. All right.
Cool. Okay.
There he is. Oh.
There we go. We're back.
All right. There we are.
It's on my side. I hate Verizon so much. I could never have switched away from AT&T fiber. Anyway, hey, that's what a live broadcast does. So anyway, we're doing a live watch along of the first 2 episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier tonight. Tomorrow night we'll continue with episodes 3 and 4. I have a different co-host for that one. And then on Wednesday at our regular 8 p.m. time slot, JT will be back on the show and we'll cover the last 2 episodes of the series. So tune into the whole series if you want to watch along with us. But I'm really excited to have you on, Joe, because I'm sure that you're going to have plenty to say about whatever character choices they made in the MCU for these guys versus their comic depictions.
Yeah.
So I mean, right off the bat was what Redbird, I think, is Falcon's little drone, right?
Yeah.
That was actually a Falcon in the comic book, right?
Yeah. He was a Falcon, and he can like see through the eyes of birds or talk to birds. I think they change it up every once in a while. Some writers think that's ridiculous, so they don't really touch on it. and then other writers. I've seen a couple where they lean on it, and he's just like talking to birds, doing reconnaissance and stuff.
So I'm glad that the MCU is smart enough to realize that some of these comic concepts just don't work in a movie context. Like some of the stuff is just it only works in the books and the pages of a comic book.
Yeah, and I think that's the tough thing, right? Is like what does work and what doesn't. Like, because you got to have some ridiculousness. It's comic books, right? Like it's you know, if there's no ridiculousness, it's just a action movie, you know. So I think the colorful costumes and the ridiculous like things like that really just sell it for me. I love that stuff.
Yeah, you got to have some camp in your comic books for sure. All right, so what we're gonna do is, everybody, sorry, bad news. You've got to watch your own copy of Disney Plus to watch this show. We're not getting pulled down for copyright strikes by trying to stream Disney Plus to you over YouTube. So we're gonna count you down with a 3 count to kick off the episode, and so we can stay in time with each other. And then we'll start from there. Joe, do you have Disney Plus queued up? Are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. I'm at 000. I'm ready.
All right, then let's get a countdown going. I'm going to count us in here. I've got mine at 000 as well.
If you froze during the countdown, that's not going to work. And you did freeze during the countdown. Verizon.
So we are good. There we go. We're back.
You're back. All right.
So apparently I'm not going to drop entirely. I'm just going to get so slow that it's going to seem like I dropped. Okay, so we're queued up to 000, and here's what we're going to do. I'm going to count down from 3, 2, 1, and we're going to get started with this. Okay. So let's get going here because we've got 2 episodes, and this is back in the golden era of streaming where it was actually like 50 plus minutes per episode, not this like 35-minute crap that they get us now. So we got some more to do. Let's go get going here in 3, 2, 1, and play. Got the brilliant Disney Plus logo here. A hater of the MCU, but as a comic purist, how much have you kept tabs on the MCU lately? Like
I've been out of
Endgame?
touch ever since Endgame. I kind of lost touch. I've seen stuff since then, but I haven't been going to the theater to see it. I've been watching it with my wife when we have time, which has got us a few movies behind. And she hasn't been enjoying them as much. So it's not like our primary thing to go to these days.
It's a common complaint that the quality has just fallen off, you know?
I think that I don't know if they just lost the magic. I think maybe there's too much of it.
Yeah. And plus, I mean, Endgame was like, it was such a perfect conclusion to 24 movies, and then COVID hit. So like you had this epic conclusion to the saga, and then everything stopped. So people just moved on and forgot about the hype of Marvel movies. It was like the absolute perfect storm of a formula to kill all of the momentum that the Marvel universe had, you know?
Yeah.
I do love this premise though of the show here. Just how the hell do you step into Steve Rogers' shoes?
Yeah, I think that's a fun concept to explore, like at its heart. Now, whether you pull it off is an entirely different thing, but I think the concept is really solid. I've always been interested when they put someone new in the Captain America behind the shield.
Yeah, and I think I prefer taking the route of putting someone else in the role than just recasting when the actors age out or, you know, pay themselves out of playing the role anymore, you know?
Yeah. I mean, we'll see how they deal with that. I mean, because I feel like they're still going to want to make these movies in 15, 20 years, and they might have to recast, and we'll see how fandom takes that.
I feel like that might be part of the strategy of having pivoted to the multiverse saga, is they introduce this idea of, well, there's different versions, so now we can recast.
Yeah. Yeah. Although they've been recasting Spider-Man pretty regularly, and it works.
Mm-hmm. But he's kind of like the king of the multiverse at this point. I never realized
That's a
he'd
great
be so
shot, him
connected
jumping
with
out of that plane,
multiverse
though, isn't
stories.
it?
But yeah, as a start to the series, this was great. I mean,
it
we hadn't
looks
really
big
seen a
budget.
Disney Plus series yet at this point. I mean, this feels just like a movie to me so far.
I mean, he gave up the element of surprise that quick.
Yeah. I mean, Falcon ain't subtle. Giant brightly colored wingsuit isn't exactly stealth. I do love that they got GSP back to play. Oh, come on! I know he's called the Leaper. Jirak, Batroc.
Oh, Batroc, the Leaper.
Yeah,
Batroc, right? Batroc.
yeah, yeah, and they got him back from Winter Soldier. So getting all the movie actors back, that's a great touch. I do remember the first time I watched this, I was like, "Oh crap! Are we just going to get Marvel movies on TV now?"
It does feel like
exactly
that.
what this feels like. Yeah,
and I like the way they visualize the wings. Like that could have been really silly, I think in the comics for a long time they're hard light constructs.
Hard light,
yes, a very comic concept.
Yeah, I don't even know how to interpret that.
It's similar to like what
the
comics say the X-Men have in the Danger Room, where it's like they're hard light constructs that it's making. That's how it works.
Oh, so it's like Star Trek has a holodeck.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always some sort of like made up tech that's like, yeah, we could simulate anything. Don't worry.
And of course, these bad guys all have like their own flying suits.
Mm-hmm. That is the thing, is I feel like in a lot of ways, Falcon's great in the air, but it's otherwise kind of a worthless gimmick. Like, what if he's in a subway?
Right. Doesn't he go into a subway? I think they probably are there. I think we're going to address that at some point.
Probably. But yeah, and he doesn't even have superpowers, so he's just some dude like trucking it down a railroad track underground. Like, it doesn't seem very useful. I feel like probably a lot of this wingsuit stuff was practical. It certainly has that look about it. It has very like Iron Man 3 kind of vibes, where they actually did get people to jump out of the plane.
Oh yeah, yeah. Do wingsuits like this exist? Like, do people do this? Not the Falcon thing, but the other thing that Batroc's wearing.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I've seen them, but they don't work like that, right? I have no idea.
I'm sure they took some sort of artistic license, but yeah, they do have these. That's a real thing. You can base jump with stuff like that.
Yeah, this whole sequence works for me. I like it. This is touching on what got me so excited the first time I saw Marvel movies. It's seeing superheroes in real life.
Mhm.
He just throws them.
Yeah, being our first exposure to what Marvel could be on Disney Plus, this set the bar so high. I mean, it's a great lead-in to get people excited, but it also sets the standard to where people expect this from every episode of every series, and it's just can't. Yeah, but this is a really long sequence too.
Yeah. They just jumpsuited from one helicopter to another with a dude on his back. That's got to be advanced jumpsuiting.
Mm-hmm. Hey, by the way, you know how I'm like in tons of awesome difficulties tonight? I'm watching the video, no problem, but the actual playhead never moved. So I have no idea what the time code is.
Oh, good. That won't be a problem later, I don't think.
No, I'm just still at 0.
Shout out Verizon Mobile.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the part they don't tell you. I switched to Verizon because it was cheaper to bundle everything, and that's all awesome. And yeah, like when we had those storms blow through last summer, and the towers around me went offline. Not only was I without cell phone, but I was also without internet because it's really just another cellular line. So yeah, when anything's offline, I'm completely out of touch.
Of note, people are dying here. Like,
yeah, they really gloss over that,
like,
don't
not
they?
killing. Like, I mean, he's not like shooting dudes in the head, but those people in that helicopter are dead.
I know. I thought of that like when I was doing a rewatch before the watch along here, and yeah, like we're cheering for the guy, but there are a lot of people just straight up getting toasted.
And I'm not always against people dying. Like, I mean, they're portraying it like it's war, and that was always like Cap's thing. Like he'd be like, no one will ever die, but then he was also like, well, I was in World War II, some people died, but not on my watch.
Well, even in First Avenger though, Hydra had like laser weapons. It wasn't bullets.
Right.
Nice to see that the leaper got away again, though, so that George St. Pierre lives to leap another day.
I didn't know that was George St. Pierre.
Yep.
Until you said it.
It's kind of perfect. If you want a guy who can do martial arts stuff, get a UFC fighter.
And they're all looking to make money, not getting punched in the face for real.
Mm-hmm. I'm just waiting for Colin McGregor to show up.
What was your guys' verdict on the 3 Captain America movies? Revisiting them.
My brother really likes the first one, most of them all. I say Winter Soldier's absolute peak Marvel.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I actually don't care for the first Captain America, and I've shared this with him and then been yelled at, but not a huge fan of the first Captain America. I think it was kind of like their first kind of swing and a miss for me when they were coming out originally.
I liked it, but my viewing on a rewatch, I'm like, it's a good movie once you see the other ones. It's kind of a one-note movie on its own, but it's a great intro to a trilogy.
I feel like the entire, like in my brain when I think about that movie, the entire second act is like a clip show. Like newsreel, like the whole second act. And I know that's probably not true, but that's how my brain remembers it, is like.
No, I think it is true. Like the first act is all his origin of growing up, being scrawny, clinging to Bucky's heels, and then getting the serum. And then the second act is all just clips of him doing the USO stuff until he actually has to go out on a mission. And then you're in the final act.
Yeah.
I do like the soft intro here for what's this character's name?
I should know, but I don't. I'm bad at names.
I think it follows the comics where he takes over the Falcon mantle. Sorry, spoiler for Captain America 4. It's already in the trailer, but this does raise an interesting question about the MCU. Like, what is Captain America's official status within the government? Like, they created the character of Captain America. Steve Rogers was Captain America, but like he never like held an official military rank as Captain America, right?
Yeah, I feel like I've heard it a couple different ways in comics, but I don't know what they do, where they went with this, where it's like, I don't think he had the rank of captain, but I don't think he could have. I wouldn't know.
Especially by the time we get past Endgame, none of this that they were doing is government sanctioned. So, like, well, you're kind of vigilantes here, so we can't actually officially support you.
Yeah, I'm
pretty sure that also makes the Shield private property.
Right. They kind of wanted to have their cake and eat it too, where it's like they're not the government, the Avengers aren't, but like they can't be just straight up vigilantes because they have a fucking tower in the middle of the city that they all stay at. Like, we can find you, we know where you are.
Right. Like that was the major conceit of Civil War, is like Steve Rogers is like, we need to be able to call our own shots and go where we think we need to go. And Tony Stark is like, no, we need the government to tell us where to go. It's like, yeah, if they're not part of the government, then what the hell are they doing going all over the planet and beating people up and invading other countries, essentially?
Sometimes you just see a guy that needs to get punched in the face or avenged. And then they go.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if they actually had a display like this at the Smithsonian, but they really should have. No, it'd be cool. Like it would be in real life, it would be a movie memorabilia exhibit, but it would still be really cool.
Is that the Hydra logo back there? It is below the Shield logo.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I never really put together like these two characters and how similar their tracks are, though. They were both like brought on by the big Avengers as besties, and then they both lost those people in Endgame.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. I was never a huge War Machine fan because it always felt just like not Iron Man.
Yeah.
But
so in the comics, like, does War Machine just get the hand-me-downs? Because Tony's always tinkering and coming up with a new suit.
He always
War
ends
Machine
up with
is
like
just
more
Iron Man suit with a shoulder cannon.
Yeah, that's pretty much. That's how I always feel it is. There's a time where Rowdy, right? He's Iron Man, so that's cool. I'm for that. But like, even just a little bit of Tony Stark. He is never going to design a suit for you that could beat the suit that he's going to put on. Like,
yeah. So when like Tony invents the Mark 53, he goes to Rhodey. He's like, "Here, you can have the 52. I don't want it anymore."
Right. So we've been talking. Have we missed any major plot points? I haven't really been paying that much attention to the dialogue.
Rhodey was just kind of talking about like the burden of legacy. Now, aside, the vibranium arm is comic accurate, right, for Winter Soldier?
Yeah.
But,
this casting is amazing to me. Like, they did a great job with the Winter Soldier.
Is this his look too, or is this more of like a Marvel Cinematic Universe specific look?
No, it's a pretty reasonably close look. And the Winter Soldier, I mean, he doesn't have a long storied history in Marvel. Like, I think debuted in comics in like, I want to say like 04 or 05.
I thought he was a newer edition. Yeah, because I mean, Bucky's original appearance, wasn't he like a 10-year-old kid that was just following Captain America around in World War II era Europe?
Yeah, I think they've aged him up to a teenager, but he may have been back then a 10-year-old kid. Everything was weird in the 50s. But
it's like the Batman and Robin problem. Like, what are you doing dragging a kid around to all these things?
Right. It doesn't hold up to close scrutiny. But
it works in a comic book in what, the 50s, I think, or the 60s. I don't know when Captain America was invented.
I think there were Captain America comics in the 50s. I know that there were Golden Age Captain America comics. So, but the old adage used to be that everybody comes back to life in comic books except for Bucky and Uncle Ben, and then they brought Bucky back. Apparently it was a contentious pitch by the writer to the editorial. Like, they were like, no. They won't hear me out. They're like, we don't need to. No. But then they did.
So was his quote death in First Avenger also comic accurate? Was he like killed on a mission?
Yeah, I mean, that story's been told like 100 times, right? So I don't know which one is the exact official. Like, I'm sure I didn't read the 50s comic that it happened in. But yeah, him and Cap, the thing takes off and he's stuck on it and it blows up and Cap falls into the ocean, block of ice, Bucky's dead.
Not only does he have a child or a teenager following him around in a war zone, but the kid gets killed.
Yeah. I mean, in Cap's defense, he was being impetuous. He wasn't supposed to go jump on the rocket.
Okay, well, if you're going to jump on a rocket, you kind of deserve to die. Yeah.
I mean, I told you not to jump on the rocket. I don't know what else to tell you.
I do like how Bucky's like messing with people. He's basically still being a shitheel, but he's not breaking the rules of therapy. Yeah, he's not hurting anybody. He's just, commandeering their car with them in it.
The whole point of making amends is to fulfill rule number 3. Of course, I consider rule number 3. I'm no longer the Winter Soldier. I'm James Bucky Barnes, and you're for my efforts to make amends.
The whole making amends thing cracks me up.
But it didn't help with it. Well, like I said,
It's like the shittiest form of a 12-step program.
one day, you have to open up and understand that some people really do want to help you and they can be trusted. Trust.
See, I always thought the thing that drew me to this show, and I'll admit, I think the first few episodes are better than the last few. The action of Marvel is fun for a minute, but it's like the comic books. Are the fights really the draw, or is it the characters and their moments leading up to the fights that hook you?
I like the fights. I love a good 2-page spread, all the characters on it. Man, that just does it for me every time I'm reading a book. But it does you do get desensitized to it. Like, there, especially I feel like live action, you get tired of it quicker because they got that jump cut style and it's just kind of like,
mm-hmm.
is awesome, and then it's like, okay.
Yeah, so this premise of like seeing the moments between the battles and understanding the emotional and psychological toll that it takes on the characters themselves, I thought that was like it's exactly what a Disney Plus series should do, because you don't have time for this sort of extended look into the characters' lives in a 2-hour movie.
Yeah, I like use the shows to like let them breathe a little bit, let the characters breathe, stretch their legs, be humans.
It's a tough balancing act, though, because if you put all of that stuff in the shows and then you count on people to watch the shows so they're caught up for the next movie, that's hard too. Because I remember going to see the second Doctor Strange movie, Multiverse of Madness, and I had to like just preface stuff for my entire family because they hadn't seen WandaVision.
Yeah.
So they didn't know any of the stuff going on with Wanda. And I'm like, oh, that this was there and that was there, and oh, multiverse and all that stuff. Well, let me explain that to you. That was presented in the Loki series, and yada yada yada.
Yeah, I don't. It's a rock and a hard place, right? Like to make the series mandatory viewing before you go see a blockbuster movie is kind of a big ask, because it's like 6 hours. When we need you to put in 6 hours of homework before you can go see the next movie, that's not a great business plan.
I think that's one of the problems that people had with Marvel, especially after Endgame, was it got to be that way where it felt like homework. You couldn't just go watch a Marvel movie. You're like, well, wait a minute. Now I've got to watch an entire season of television first. But they still try to write the movies in such a way. Like you saw Deadpool and Wolverine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like the entire TVA was explained in season 1 of Loki.
Right.
You didn't need to see season 1 of Loki though to get it. They did a quick recap enough to get the story moving in the movie.
Well, that movie was 30% recap.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I thought that what they were going to do was take stories and be like, these are the television stories and these are the movie stories. Because, like, you know, the Marvel Comics universe exists, but you don't have to read every issue of Moon Knight if you want to read the Black Panther series. You know, maybe occasionally those two series will cross over and there's that. But those are, you know, separate stories. You don't have to see one to get the other.
Yeah. Yeah. It's well, again, rock and a hard place, because the biggest complaint about phase 4 and 5 of Marvel since Endgame was that everything feels disjointed. Because everything it was just people were making their own stuff and they weren't really talking to each other to tell a cohesive narrative across the stories. So on one hand, you have the problem of like, by the time you got to like Captain America 3, for example, the question always comes up as soon as there's any solo film. It's like, well, where's everybody else?
Right.
So it's almost impossible to make a solo movie because you have to explain why no one else is around all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But then
it's like, why doesn't Daredevil just call Spider-Man all the time, or vice versa?
Right. Yeah. At least in the case of this show, I think they did a good job of straddling that, because they did call in people from the Captain America corner of the MCU, but nothing was like super severe enough to warrant like, oh, why isn't Thor there just handling this?
Right. Oh, here we get into the backstory with the boat and the sister, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I saw a quote from Anthony Mackie on online today, and he was talking about how it's kind of meta the way like this show deals with Sam Wilson trying to, reckon with stepping into the shadow and living in the shadow of Steve Rogers, and Anthony Mackie's kind of doing that with Chris Evans, where like he's trying to do a Captain America movie now after 3 movies of Chris Evans Captain America.
Yeah,
it's like, damn, how do you follow that up?
I hope it's good. I do, like, because I feel like when Marvel makes a movie that isn't good, everybody blames the actor or the character, and it's like, but the movie wasn't good. It's not the character's fault. It's not the actor's fault. So I'm hoping it's good because I feel like he's going to take a lot of heat if this movie like were to bomb or something. But I think putting Red Hulk in there that's in that that's the Captain America trailer, right?
Yeah, it's on the poster and everything.
Yeah. That, I mean, I think that's going to drive people just because people are like, what is that?
Mm-hmm. The dot that they haven't connected is, when did Thunderbolt Ross become president? Also, I'm not sure everyone's clear that Harrison Ford is playing William Hurt's character.
I didn't even remember that Thunderbolt Ross had been introduced in the MCU. I forgot.
Yeah, that was all the way back in the Incredible Hulk. We don't talk about that. But he popped up a couple more times. Like, he was definitely in he was in Civil War, I think, and I think he's made like 2 or 3 appearances throughout. He's always been a nuisance to the Avengers because he wants oversight.
Right. Does the trailer show who Red Hulk is? Like, we know who the Red Hulk is in the trailer, or no?
No. I mean, comic fans know that it's Thunderbolt Ross, but
They
I mean,
took 2
it
years.
might,
You know,
they might not go that route in the MCU. Who knows? But he does look a lot like Harrison Ford, so I think they are going that way.
I think they took 2 years to divulge who Red Hulk was in the comics. I think. I want to say they debuted Red Hulk in Hulk #1, and then it was like Hulk 24. They finally it was Thunderbolt Ross.
Damn, we had to draw that one out, and that's
and
monthly,
they cheated
right? So
too because they had
2 years.
Thunderbolt Ross and Red Hulk in the same place. LMD.
So it sucks to say, but another one of the criticisms of this show is that, like, the storyline for Sam and his family was like the subtlety. There was no subtlety in talking about like the problems of, being black and a superhero in America, all the, racial issues that they brought up.
They hit that on the head a couple times over the next 6 hours, don't they?
They really do. I don't personally have a problem with it, though. I mean, it feels like another one of those rock in a hard place things where if you're subtle about it, people will be like, well, why are you so afraid to just face this head on? But then if you just put it right out front and center, they're like, we just want to watch a superhero thing. Can you just shut up about real world problems, please?
Right.
Dude, Sebastian Stan just kills it in this role. I love this guy.
I think he's great. I think Falcon's great too, but I don't know. I don't know that I want to hear about his drama with his sister that much. Like, it just doesn't. I wasn't watching the Captain America movies and the Avengers movies and being like, I wonder what his relationship with his sister is like. They talk a lot. Does he have a nephew? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Bucky's at least got a backstory that you're like, holy shit, that dude was like frozen, and then he was an assassin without a mind for a while. Like, that is not every family has that.
If there's anything that I feel was a bit of a leap of logic and a bit of a retcon, was how they explained that Bucky didn't die in the first Captain America movie.
Yeah, and I mean, that's
what
that
go back and say, oh, well, remember, Zola was Hydra, and so Zola actually injected him with Hydra's version of the super soldier serum, which supposedly, no one else but Steve could take it. When he fell off the train, he was actually a super soldier. and that's how he survived. Like, really? Whoa, that's really digging deep, guys. I'm confused on something too, though. So, like, when Steve returned all the Infinity Stones in Endgame and just like stayed in the past and then lived until present day, he was old.
Yeah.
Bucky's been alive the whole time and not on ice. So why isn't he old?
Well, so Bucky was on ice a lot of the time. The thing with the Winter Soldier, I recall, like they take him out of deep freeze to run the missions, and then they put him back in the deep freeze.
Oh, okay.
They mind wipe him, put him back in the deep freeze, and then repeat.
Okay, that makes sense. See, the other thing that I don't mind about seeing like the Sam Wilson family storyline, though, is it does touch on, and they touched on this. This is what Sam was doing in Captain America too when he got introduced, was, you know, working with Army vets and all the problems that veterans have when they come home from a tour of duty.
Yeah.
So it's just the same thing, but in the context of being a superhero instead. Like, yeah, thanks for saving the Earth. Life moves on. Sorry.
Yeah, and they touched on that with when they brought back all the Snap people, right? Like life went on for what, 6 years?
Mm-hmm.
You could do like a non-superhero like drama on just that.
Yeah, I mean that's the key conceit here with the Flag Smashers, right? Is that they're against the GRC, the Global Repatriation Council, or whatever it's called. Like, it's this global organization that's set up to handle what do you do when half the world's population just blips back into existence after 5 years.
What is their stance, that these people shouldn't be citizens, or they shouldn't?
So the Flag Smashers are saying that whatever people got by other people being dusted, it ain't their fault that those people then came back. So they should get to hang on to, you know, whatever property they had, and so on and so on.
Oh, like, so you're gone, I take your car, you come back, I'm not giving you a car back. It's my car now. It's been my car for 5 years.
Right. Like, you didn't exist for 5 years. So just because you popped back onto the scene doesn't mean that what was formerly your now again.
I wonder if there's some like nationalist undertones there. Nationalism, or, you know, considering today's political.
It's tough though, because you can kind of see both sides, right? Like,
yeah,
it's like there have been old stories of, like, you know, say like some woman thinks her husband died, so she moves on with her life, and then he comes back out of nowhere after so many years, and like, let's pick up where we left off, and she's like, I've remarried.
Yeah, that's,
what do you do?
That's a tough spot.
So far, like, all the action and the Flag Smasher stuff, that it still has like every bit of Captain America political intrigues that I'm looking for from this stuff.
Yeah, I think this transition shines a light on, like, where, like, I mean, again, like, it's not like I don't want to hear about his home life or whatever, but like, I could go get denied for a loan in my real life.
This is one of those funny things though, where you're like, yeah, do they draw a paycheck? Like, there you go. Exactly. How do you make a living?
There's a great scene in New Avengers comic book where they recruit Spider-Man to be an Avenger, and he hadn't been an Avenger previously, and he was like, you know what, this will be good for me. I could actually use a steady paycheck. And they're like, well, there's no money this time. He's like, that's the most me thing ever.
And that's the other thing. Like Falcon got dusted, so he was gone for 5 years. So they're like, yeah, can you financial records? He's like, well, I didn't exist, so no. Hey, Joe, what's our time code right now?
Where are we at? 3755. Mark.
All right, so we got a couple lurkers here who have not commented, but if you'd like to comment, absolutely go ahead and chime in the chat there. We are at about 38 minutes into the first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We're going to be moving on to episode 2 tonight before we wrap up the live stream. So any thoughts you've got on the show, feel free to chime in, guys.
Also, this is a very like 1980s version of getting a loan. Like, it doesn't work that way anyway. You put the information in the computer, beep, boop, 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 it spits out a yes or a no.
Oh, what would you know about bank loans, Joe?
What would I know?
Peeling back the curtain, guys. He actually worked. I forget.
Worked.
Former employee of a major international bank. So,
by the way, not working, Adam, is awesome, but not having a job is less awesome. I want a job and to not work. That's the dream.
Those do seem to be mutually exclusive goals. I don't know how you do both of those at once.
My real goal is always to maximize my effort to income ratio.
Well, good thing you got that sugar mama.
I keep telling her I'd be a good house husband, but she doesn't believe me, and she's right.
How is she ever going to know if she doesn't give you a chance?
Right? This could be my time to shine.
I think the other reason why I don't mind this bit of the storyline is it's nice to know that these people do have like regular lives and regular problems. It's not always just, we got to save the world. It's like, nah, I got a sister who's trying to keep a business literally afloat.
Literally afloat. Well done.
So see, this show's so fake. That video is landscape, and he had his phone in portrait mode.
As I think about this series and like what I thought about it the first time I watched it, I feel like, I mean, it could have been a four episode series. Like, I don't know that they needed the full 6.
Mm-hmm. I feel like some of this was padded out for sure. At least they could have trimmed down the runtime a little bit.
Yeah.
As much as I say that I want a 50-minute episode every time, traditional broadcast TV for a 1-hour episode was about 42 minutes once you take out the credits and the time for commercial breaks.
I always thought streaming gave them a good opportunity to make an episode as long as it needs to be. You've got a 90-minute episode. If you've got it, put it out there. But if you only need 35 minutes, we don't need to go 60. They don't all have to be the same, because it's not like you're trying to fit it into a broadcast slot.
I get that, but if you're gonna, let's say, run a 90-minute episode, that's a movie. It's a very eventful movie, but it's a movie.
Yeah, I mean, you reserve that for finales. 90 minutes might have been a bit much. Man, U.S. Agent looks like such a dork, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, what's the time code now? We are at
It's 42
minutes and change.
Yeah, so there's another just about 8 minutes to go with credits
of nothing but credits. Yeah.
Yeah.
So see, we're getting some time back.
So are we
this
going,
drives my brother crazy. He cannot stand how long the credits are on these shows because he looks at the runtime. He goes, "Oh, it's a 38-minute episode." Turns out it's like 31 minutes, and the rest is all credits.
He would prefer that all these people don't get their due.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hell, from what little I understand, half the reason that getting your name in these is so important isn't just for ego. If it doesn't appear here, then your paycheck is much smaller. Like I've learned from listening to a few podcasts, a lot of actors did like rewatches of their own TV series and stuff during COVID. And they were talking about how the difference between written by so-and-so and so-and-so versus so-and-so ampersand so-and-so.
Oh, I knew that there were things like that.
They are taking shared credit and split pay, and the other one means they each get a paycheck. And when you see guest starring or special guest, here's your name, or featuring, all that stuff has a different pay scale.
There's a lot.
And if it appears at the front of the episode versus in the credits at the end, that's a different thing too.
A lot of those words in our society that people don't know. Like that have more meaning than we think. Like, I just learned with leather. You ever buy a wallet and it says genuine leather? I always thought that meant it was real leather.
That
would
be the assumption. Yeah,
genuine is a leather industry standard, and there's different levels of leather, and genuine actually happens to be the lowest one besides like untreated leather. So they're basically, when they put genuine leather, they're like, this is crappy leather. Didn't expect to learn that on your superhero podcast.
No. It's like visiting my grandparents down in Texas when they were snowbirds growing up, and they were very quick to point out that, like in Mexico, for example, you can label anything as sterling silver. Doesn't matter. It could be 0% silver. It could be labeled as sterling silver. But if it says pure vanilla, it better be nothing vanilla in the bottle.
Mexico doesn't fuck around with unpure vanilla.
They don't fuck around with vanilla. They'll fuck around with silver, but they won't fuck around with vanilla.
It's good to have standards.
All right, so I just let it roll, and I'm already looking at a recap of episode 1 in the start of episode 2. Is that what you got?
No, I got bored and hit next episode. So now I'm at 000 for episode 2.
Okay. So here's what I'm gonna call. You want to take a quick intermission, like a 1-minute intermission, grab a fresh beverage or anything? Or are you good to go to roll in the next one?
Whichever. I brought 2 beers because it was Super Bowl Sunday last night, so I didn't need more than that.
Oh, you're loaded for bear. Okay. Let's get rolling then. Let's keep this thing going.
All right, we're keeping it.
I got triple zeros. You got triple zeros, right?
Yeah, do the countdown.
All right, we're gonna get episode 2 started here. The Star Spangled Man. What a great title. We're gonna get going here in 3, 2, 1. Play. Previously on Falcon and the Winter Soldier. No, still don't have a playhead. Oh, wait, I do. It's moving. It's moving. It's working now. I know what time it is.
Tool time.
I do kind of miss the look of Evil Bucky, though. The long hair and the mask and everything. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's a good look.
So you were saying you wish this was like 4 episodes instead of 6. So where would you trim the fat?
I mean, everything could just be a little shorter, you know. The getting denied for a line of credit could be shorter. The argument with his sister could be shorter. Like, heck, even that opening scene was good. So I mean, that sets the tone. But like, you could have a few less jump cut, like elbows to the face.
Yeah, that opening action sequence was awesome, but I also got the same impression where I'm thinking like it would have been just as awesome with a few less minutes in it.
Yeah. But I do think that was a good pilot episode. That was a good like welcome to here's what we're doing. They got everything going. I mean, there was a little bit term used loosely exposition in that but that was a good first episode, honestly. Like, I thought like this was going to be a pretty solid episode, a pretty solid series after watching that.
Mm-hmm. It is. I get that they like left the first episode with the cliffhanger of who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
But like picking up the second episode with now let's follow the guy we just introduced. Two guys that the show is named after.
Yeah, I don't know. This feels very comic booky to me. Here's the cliffhanger, and then we're gonna jump back in time and like give you an origin to page 1 of the next issue. Like it works for me, I think. Conceptually, I don't know that I love this U.S. agent. I don't, but I'll see how it goes as we go forward. I don't remember that well.
I love the casting here. Wyatt Russell is like, his face has this perfect look of like, he looks exactly like who they would try to cast in this universe is like, who do we follow up Steve Rogers with? Like, who looks the part? But then he's also got this like little bit of like, God, I hate to say it, but it's like darkness, like this little, he's got just enough of a resting bitch face. You're like, yeah, he's not quite as heroic as the last guy, is he?
You kind of want to see him get punched in the face.
Yeah.
Did you freeze again, Adam? Oh, you're back.
No, I was just actually watching the show for a change. Yeah, like the premises are all solid. Like his whole thing of like, I just want to like do the soldier thing. He's like, no, you're a public figure. Like you're a character. You have to play the part.
Yeah.
Like I kind of felt that way watching the Super Bowl last night. Like all that pageantry and bullshit. It's like, what if you just want to play some football? It's got to be so hard to like stay focused on the game ahead when you've got all that shit ahead of time. You got, John Hamm introducing you, or I forget who introduced the Eagles. Was it Bradley Cooper?
Yeah, Bradley Cooper.
Yeah, so you got all that crap, and then your halftime, instead of being the standard 12 minutes, you got your routine down, right? No, you got to wait like 30 and then get back into it.
That always annoyed me as a person who watched the Super Bowl, because I really, really like football. Like that they're doing those extra long halftime shows and whatever. But I get it. That's what it is. That's the job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the Radio Row and all the media appearances leading up to it, like you're there to play football, but you've got to be this personality on, good on camera and good on a microphone and all this other crap. Same thing here. This guy's a soldier. And they just pluck him out. They're like, hey, you think you'd look good in Captain America duds? You're now that character. To it.
You're blonde with a square jaw. Come on out.
I love how this is like a nothing burger of a debut too.
I know it's just like a high school football game.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that they got his
Also, what
ears
time
like
of day
sticking
does
out a little bit on it.
does Good Morning America start?
What's that?
What time does Good Morning America air?
That is not.
Because
in my
this must be
wheelhouse.
pre-dawn. I know Good Morning America is live, so
Oh, I see. You're saying this is GMA and all these people are watching.
yeah, they actually had the logo up there. They said this is Good Morning America. That's why he said the line.
Oh,
So this must be like 5:30 in the morning or something, and this high school stadium is all packed out.
It's the greatest honor of my life. But I'm just a little shocked. How a guy like me end up.
Oh, wait. A guy like me, somebody's being a bit too humble. For those of you who
I can actually hear your audio through the feed. You are behind me by a few seconds there, bud.
I'm at 6:55.
Yeah, I'm at 7 minutes mark.
Oh, let's see.
That's
Now I'm
okay.
at 7.
I'll just pause for a second and start
I'm
it
at
again.
7:15 now.
Skipped ahead now. Darn you.
Yeah.
Well, no spoilers, man. You're living in the future.
Right. I'll tell you the fucking Winter Soldier's sitting there just like he wants to wring this guy's neck. You can just tell from the way he's looking at the TV.
Mm-hmm. We had that line where he's like, "Well, I never met the guy, but I feel like we're brothers." Okay, you deserve to get punched.
Do we need to resync that or are we good? I'm at
Good enough.
8 exactly.
Okay, yeah, I'm 5 seconds behind. I can catch that up real quick.
Call America and tell them I changed my mind.
Yeah. This is one of those like vague things. So that shield is supposed like the original Cap shield from World War II. Is that right?
Well, the
So
original
Howard
one wasn't
Stark
a
made it
circle,
as
right?
part
He
of
had one
Shield,
that was
which was kind
he
of
had
part
the
of the
original
military.
one, and then he got the circle one. I think don't they have like Howard Stark and company working on the vibranium shield at one point?
Right. So my question is like, is Shield part of the government?
Shield, the organization?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to say in the MCU it's an extension of the United States military. In the comics, it goes back and
Okay.
forth between being a world peacekeeping service and an extension of the United States military.
Okay. So the Shield was government property then.
Yeah, I think so. I would co-sign that. That sounds right.
I love this conversation.
Yeah, this is good.
What a great line. Sorcerer is just a wizard without a hat.
Amen. I didn't know it, but it's true. I think. He was coming with him. I think their like chemistry is definitely a highlight of the series. Like they have a very good
Mhm.
buddy cop like chemistry.
I love how they're well, okay, Falcon's not pissy, but Bucky's pissy because he's like, I was Steve's best friend first, and then you got to be like his bestie instead. He really didn't need to tear the sleeve off.
He
I think
didn't, and I
the
don't
arm
think that he
still
could.
works with the sleeve on.
Like nothing about having a bionic arm says that you can jump out of a freaking plane.
Yeah.
And also, like, I don't
Plus, it
think
was a really nice jacket.
Have you ever tried to rip the arm off a jacket? Like, he didn't even use his bionic arm. He used his regular arm to try to rip the arm off. Does he have super strength or something that?
He's a super soldier. He took the serum. Hydra gave him the serum.
All right, so maybe that's okay. Because the super soldier serum is a little extra in the MCU. Like, because I remember Steve like kicks a car at one point, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm. Now, I'll admit, I need to do a watch of like the Infinity Saga movies because I'm trying to remember what happened to his original arm that he had to get a new one in Wakanda.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I don't remember how it got, because he always, like, the character always had the extra arm, but he didn't. Yeah, Black Panther got him a new one, or right? Is that right?
Yeah. He's been, like, after Civil War, he ended up in Wakanda without his arm, as I recall. Now that's when he was, White Wolf, and then he comes back, in I think in Endgame. I don't think he's in Infinity War. I could be wrong. Oh yeah, no, he's in Infinity War. He's still in Wakanda, so he like fights Thor and all the Wakandans. Anthony Mackie's a funny dude, man. I love his comedy. Yeah, see, they don't skip leg day. That's what CrossFit will do for you, Joe.
Will it?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I totally wasn't laying in my back in pain after swinging a 45-pound kettlebell tonight.
I don't need a 45-pound kettlebell to hurt my back. I can do that with a good sharp cough.
Another thing I'll give the Marvel Studios credit for, they somehow make it look somewhat plausible that these guys can run faster than vehicles. Look, Memphis Nest from Star Wars story. You wouldn't get that reference, I don't think, but trust me, it's the same actress.
I believe you. I'm bad at that game. I'm terrible.
She's got a pretty unique look. Ah, the old trope. We're fighting on a moving truck. Don't push him sideways, punch him forward and backward. And why is this truck now all of a sudden alongside the other one? I love that line.
That's good.
And good thing that other truck was there with people on it too. Great intro.
Yeah. So like if that wasn't a superhuman, that person's dead. If you threw a shield at him hard enough that it bounced back to you off the back of their head, like they're dead, right?
I would think so. Although also he doesn't have super soldier serum, so his shield tosses are pretty weak. In fact, if we're really like, picking nits here, then the fact that anyone without super soldier serum can fling that thing like a frisbee is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it is I mean, honestly, Sam is way out of his league in terms of like, if everybody here has super soldier serum and knows how to fight, like that's a tough for somebody that doesn't have that.
That's the thing. These are really like love taps. If they were
Right.
punching him for real, his ribs would be collapsed in like a heartbeat. What is Bucky trying to do there with his hand? Is he trying to stop the truck by digging into the road?
I don't know. Was he just tired of just giving up, just rip the arm off? I don't know.
Right. Also, I know it's necessary for the plot, but I still just straight up like the fact that the heroes got their asses kicked here.
He's so lucky there was a car there. I question the judgment of the driver of that car though. Like why like there's people fighting on top of semis, like I'm not gonna be just a car length back. I'm gonna be hitting the brakes and getting out of there.
That obnoxious timeout is brought to you by Verizon Internet. What's the time code now, Joe?
1920.
Okay, yeah, I'm 10 seconds behind.
10 seconds. Skip ahead. Or should I skip back?
Nope. I got it.
All right.
So the nice thing about being able to hear your audio is I can kind of click forward and backward to sync up myself.
Is it it's not interfering. I can turn it down if it is.
No, it's not. It's not interfering bad enough that we're getting taken offline for it. So it's good enough.
So like Walker's not wrong here, right? Like he's duly authorized by the United States government and he's got
Yeah, and
access to
he's
all the
being cool
intel.
about it. He could just body up on him and be like, look, I'm Captain America. You don't even exist as far as the military is concerned. Step off.
kind of the government.
Yeah. See, now I'm trying to remember because Falcon's got Stark Tech. How is that government?
Did Stark make Red Wing? I'm not
Yeah,
clear
I
on
think so.
On Red Wing's origin. Maybe he got like a upgraded Red Wing between panels, as it were.
Hmm. Yeah, it doesn't matter. We're thinking about it too hard for a very minor, unimportant plot point. All right, I got 2240 right now. Where are you at?
43, 44, 45, 46,
Okay.
47. Every time I see that hand logo, I think of that Nick Cave song.
Maybe I just need to be more politically charged or something. I look at the way that they're living their lives because of what they're trying to accomplish, and I'm like, I just want to sign in with my Nintendo Switch and play some, SO game. I can't live off the grid. That wouldn't work for me.
No, I don't want to get off the grid. I actually want to be more on the grid. Like, take my data, send me the stuff that I need. Like advertise directly to me the things that I want. I'm all for it.
Exactly. I mean, even at the most basic level, like I don't want to go looking for porn on the dark web. I like all the standard porn.
But you're fine as long as you live in Texas right now, right?
All right.
So these people are basically like Thanos was right. That should be like their
Mhm.
logo, their motto.
Basically.
The world's better off minus a couple billion.
The one thing I don't understand, I know it's again one of those conceits you have to do for this storyline being Marvel, but why does the shield itself matter so much?
Right.
Unless you're going to be Captain America, the shield it's just a thing.
Man, it's a really good shield.
I guess. But Sam's wings already act as a pretty good shield, apparently.
Yeah, that's like a vibranium adamantium alloy or some shit, and it bounces real good.
I mean, why Bucky's not just being like, look, I can call it my Wakanda people. They'll make you something. Yeah. Now we get into the heavy-handedness. I don't know if I'm allowed to laugh at that or not. See, the other thing I give him credit for is like this is like nothing that Marvel ever dared touch prior to this show.
Oh, Black Falcon.
See, I've actually got friends in Baltimore too, so I wish they followed Marvel more because I'd like to shit on their town for what it looks like, but they wouldn't get the reference. And then they would just tell me about all the Super Bowls they've won.
Was Baltimore like a worse Philadelphia? Is that or a better Philadelphia maybe?
Hey, wait a minute.
Did you see they tore down a light post, the lamp post, and were parading it down the streets in Philly last night because Philadelphia loves to burn their city down when they win things.
Isn't it bizarre?
There's a lot of exposition.
Yeah, it's to have these speeches when they weren't expecting anyone to show up. I mean, it's a compelling storyline. I give him credit for it, and this came right from the comics, right?
Yeah, I've never read anything with Isaiah as Captain America, but I know that is a thing that they touched on it at some point. There's a couple fill-in Captain Americas between Captain America falling into the ocean and coming back in Avengers 1.
Yeah. So when did Captain America come back in the comics after World War II? I mean,
Avengers 1. They find him in the ice, I think. Avengers 1, maybe
like,
Avengers
but what
2.
year?
Something like that. That would have been like 60, 64, 65. I'd have to look it up, but that sounds about right.
Has he been, active ever since then in the comics?
Yeah.
Okay, so instead of like the 50-year gap, or no, more like 60-year gap or whatever it was in the movies, it was only like 20 years.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not sure if I'm trying to think about it because I didn't, like I said, I don't read comics from that era much, but I'm not even sure if they had him like die in the comics in like the 50s and 40s or whatever. If they just stopped publishing them, and then that's how they like explained the gap. I don't know if that's.
Oh,
I don't know. I'd have to go back and really look.
see, I don't want to cheat and go to Google. I hate that that's like always the go-to now.
I know. I
It's way
know.
more fun to, either find the answer or find somebody who knows the answer.
I agree. They gave him like a perfectly dorky looking suit, didn't they? Like
Mm-hmm.
he's almost like the uncanny valley Captain America.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the wish.com Captain America.
Because that's how things work.
Right. I like the whole therapist thing. Again, it's one of those things that you'd never get in a movie. There's no time for it.
Yeah. It's like ridiculous and it makes no sense, but it does give them the chance to like buddy cop it up again and like play off each other.
Mm-hmm.
It goes like this.
I'll tell you what, I don't know what any of this stuff is, but if I was ever to end up in therapy and have to do this stuff, I couldn't. No. Mm-mm. This is kind of a good actor, but I just feel like Anthony Mackie would be a hilarious guy to hang out with. Just the roles that he picks and the characters he plays. I'm like, okay, yeah, there's got to be some of the real guy shining through and all this stuff. The only other stuff that I know he's been in, he was in season 2 of Altered Carbon on Netflix, and he was in Twisted Metal.
Oh wow. I forgot there was a Twisted Metal series or movie.
Mm-hmm.
Movie series? What was it? Was it any good?
I think it was a series, and maybe that was also Netflix. See, now I am cheating. I'm going to Google for this one.
Well, that's a lot of fallacy.
Right. It was a 1-season series on Peacock.
Oh, that's why I didn't see it.
Yeah, it came out in 23.
Did you see it?
I did not.
It's a rough premise for really anything. It's surprising they made a game work.
Thank you. That look, what's wrong?
Bummer. I like Doc. Keep Doc.
This is again going on my memories of this show from watching it, but I feel like eventually they just start piling action movie cliche lines on top of each other, and I feel like it's starting here a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I know that look, she says. We divide each other. We don't stand a chance.
Yeah. Yeah. It's getting into Tropeville for sure. One thing that Marvel's always been really good at with these shows and movies is you're never really sure what's a costume piece and what is a digital extension. I got to imagine that shield is CG.
On his back?
Yeah, because he's just leaning against a car like nothing's there.
Huh.
I feel like he'd be sticking out from the car as a turtle.
There's a good cliche. That was good. Did you catch that? A word of
Yeah.
advice then. Stay the hell out of my way.
Stay out of my way. Yeah.
There's literally not they didn't they just lifted that from another movie, I think.
Mm-hmm. See, this scene coming up here raises a very good point about the efficacy of super soldier serum. Namely that it does not make you bulletproof. That's the amazing thing, really, if you think about it. Steve Rogers, ultimate badass, strong as the day is long, no problem. You can still shoot him in the face.
Right? Well, no, because he's got a shield, you see.
Yeah, and conveniently, it seems like people only ever shoot at the shield. I've watched Steve Rogers, in the first Avenger, just march headlong into a battalion of Nazis. The shield does not cover his whole body, and yet mysteriously the bullets all go to the shield.
Because it's a target.
Yeah, if he's guarding high, just shoot his kneecaps. It's not that difficult, guys.
This guy's plan was pretty stupid. I mean, as plans go, that was not a good one. Like, all right, you stopped the cars. Why didn't you just run back to the plane? What did you do by running at the guns? You could have, just run away. You could have just
well,
run
they took
away.
all the time shooting him instead of pursuing the plane.
Yes.
I will say it feels like most of the characters in here are organically included. It's not as gratuitous as it seemed on first watch.
Yeah,
Because the first time I watched through this series, it definitely felt to me like, okay, they're just finding excuses to get these characters into the story.
Yeah, no, it's not too bad because now they're gonna bring in Zemo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like all people that they're bringing in, with the exception of the new ones, of course, like Isaiah Bradley and John Walker and whatnot. But Falcon, Bucky, Zemo, like these are all people that have had dealings with Steve Rogers in the past. So it makes sense that they'd be kind of looped into this.
Yeah.
And that's where we leave off.
You know what? I think I like these first 2 episodes more than I thought I was gonna, based on my memories of it. I mean, they're not perfect, but that's a solid start to the series.
Mm-hmm. I mean, unfortunately, I feel like Marvel has had this problem for a while where sometimes the build-up is better than the payoff.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the movies like that too, where it's like, oh, this is cool, and then it just evolves into punch, kick,
Flashing
throw some
lights.
lasers or spells or magic, and yeah. So it's just big.
Yeah, that I had.
The big
I mean, I had that problem with
neon
the first
fight at the end.
Even the first 3 phases. I mean, a lot of those movies end with just flashing lights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As long as you get a big fight at the end, then all is forgiven, I guess. But like half the time, that's not the most interesting part of the movie.
Yeah.
Like Guardians of the Galaxy, great movie. Them just standing together at the end and holding hands.
Yeah.
It's the power of friendship. Okay. Don't know what the hell that purple stuff does anyway, but damn, it was impressive. So we violated one of the kind of standing rules that I have for drinking show tonight. We can actually talk about what you're drinking.
Nothing special is what I had in the fridge. A little Sam Adams
Boston Lager. That works.
You know what? I don't like it enough to drink it quickly, so that's why I went with it. It was in the fridge, and I don't like it enough to just throw them back.
See, and I was pressed for time tonight, so I went across the street to grab a bite to eat, and they got winter lager on tap, so I was having a Sam Adams myself.
Oh yeah, I was there Saturday night.
Nuts. And you didn't even say hello.
I was gonna, but it was
guys, I literally live across the street from a bar with a pizza shop attached to it, and my own cousin couldn't let me know that he was across the street from me.
I was there with some softball people. It was like a planned thing, so if I had hung out after they left, I would have hit you up. But
okay, so as long as you're not seen in public with me by anyone you know, then it's okay.
I mean, if that's how you want to take it.
It's going to make St. Patrick's Day really awkward, I'm just saying. That is coming up.
I know. I'm worried if I get a job, like it's going to be too new to be like, yeah, I need the day off work so I can go get shit-faced in the morning.
We'll just have to be the 5 p.m. crew then.
Right? Oh, tough life. It's a Friday this year, right?
I think so.
That's a kind of a double-edged sword.
It's a Monday.
Oh, it's a Monday. That's
even worse.
no. So, see, I like it when it's the inconvenient days because then you have the like true believers out, like the people that are really committed to like, when it falls on a Saturday, anybody can do it. Taking a Friday off isn't that big of a deal, but like,
True,
not a lot of people.
But then you've got to go to work the day after and face an entire remaining work week.
No, I mean, I always take the next day off.
Oh,
St.
you
Patrick's
are
Day
a true believer.
It's
Okay, that is wise.
It's a 2 PTO day. Yeah.
Okay, that's one way to do it. It's way better than that's way better than my strategy. My strategy is just don't work your too bad, bud. That's it.
I mean, I need.
Okay, we're gonna take that conversation offline because I do have a scheduling conflict. I think with the kegs and eggs, I'm gonna have to meet you sometime shortly after 8 a.m.
Oh,
but
Bush League.
Yeah, I know. We'll have to talk about that later, though. So, all right. So, your final thoughts on these first 2 episodes? You said you liked this a lot better this time. When was the last time you watched the show?
It's probably been since it came out, and it took me a while to get through it. Like I think if I keep watching these, I think that in my brain, it kind of starts to go like this a little bit. There's some things I remember that I really didn't like that. There's one point where Falcon does he does something and gets a microphone and he gives like a 5-minute speech on like racial harmony or something, and like everybody's like watching it. I was like, nobody would watch that. We would meme that down to like a 30-second clip. Like nobody would watch that, especially not live in the middle of the day.
Yeah, I don't know why they decided that Sam Wilson is the guy who's going to win fights by talking, but holy crap, he's got some speeches in this. You're like,
do you know what's funny is that
I believe more that you can fly with a robotic set of wings than you would ever say this shit in real life.
It's actually comic book accurate because when he takes over as Captain America in the books, like he does a little too much like talking, trying to like work things out, and like it was a criticism. It was kind of like meta, whereas like the characters were criticizing him for it, but then like the readers were also like, well, this isn't that interesting. Like
okay. I was going to ask if it was like a deliberate character flaw in the comic, or if it was just
but
bad writing that they had to course correct.
It wasn't great either. Like it was both. But yeah, he was doing a lot of like preaching, and then there's like kids from the neighborhood being like, "Oh, you're just all talk, trying to blah blah blah." But I thought
it's bad when kids are putting you on blast, man.
Right. And so in the comics, there like some company creates like drone like police officers, and the U.S. government's like, we're gonna give you a no bid contract to police the inner city with your robot drones. We don't see any problem with that. And so there's like a private army policing like the inner cities, and Falcon's trying to talk his way out of it instead of like cutting the heads off of robots.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I can see why that was not well received by the readership.
Wasn't great. It wasn't great. I mean, who was writing it? I think that was Remender that was writing it. I mean, he did some good stuff, but that part wasn't the best.
Man, I feel writing comics has got to be so tough. You just got to constantly come up with new storylines, and eventually you're like, well, what the hell else can we do? But man, and it does not excuse some of these things that they come up with.
Well, and you're serving a group of people who are almost never satisfied now. Like it's a big ask. I feel for them, and I mean, we talked about this a little bit before we came on. Like I don't think like you don't have to like everything, but I try. I think it's more rewarding to want to like things, if you will. So I try to give them, rope, but every once in a while something just doesn't land for you, and somebody else could love it too. But I thought these first 2 episodes better than I remember. It's a good start to the series. What did you think?
So my initial impressions were pretty good, but like we said, started out better than it ended for exactly the reasons you're talking about. Also, the cap suit they give him at the end. Spoiler: yes, he does become Captain America. That's why we have another movie coming out. But yeah, I think the quality starts high and declines from there, unfortunately. But I didn't dislike it nearly as much as a lot of other people did. There's something about the show that just turned people off, and maybe it is kind of meta, where like just like in the MCU, in the actual storyline, they're like, "You're not Steve Rogers. We don't care about you." And I feel like the fandom was kind of the same.
Yeah.
Like Falcon wasn't enough of a fan favorite that when this show came around, they're like, "Oh, I gotta see that. Let's see what's going on with Falcon." Like, no, they wanted like WandaVision because that's an Avenger, like a top tier Avenger, and Loki is a top tier villain, and then there's like Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like, oh, it's everybody who isn't. It's the B-listers from the Captain America corner of the universe. Great, thanks.
I feel like legacy characters are a bigger ask in movies than they are in comics. Because as a comic fan, when they replace Steve Rogers, I know that Steve Rogers is going to be back in, a year, 2 years, 5 years. I don't know, but he'll be back, But like with the movies, you're talking about contracts, you're talking about, lives, scheduling. Like they don't have to schedule Steve Rogers to come back in the Captain America comic. They just draw him and then he's there. But now,
yeah,
like maybe Chris Evans is too busy to do Captain America 7 or so it's a bigger ask to be like, let this guy be Captain America now. Like, that's not the Captain America that I loved for 10 years.
Yeah, it's tough. And like you said, there's such a production around a movie where you've got to get, if you want, continuity, so to speak, you've got to have the same writing staff, the same directors. You got to get the cast back. All these things have to line up, literally hundreds of people, if you want it to feel like the same thing in the next installment. Where comic book, you're like, do we have the artist? Do we have the writer? All right, cool, we're good.
And I'll put that out there. That's one of the things that makes comic books like one of my favorite mediums for storytelling, is because they tell stories on a scale that no other medium can really touch. Like it's prose, but with action scenes, like visual action scenes, but it's a movie with an unlimited CGI budget, like limited solely by the hand of the guy that's writing it and his imagination. And I love that. Like, I love that scope. I love that you can read ridiculous dinosaur Captain America stories and then have a gritty spy Captain America story. Like I love it all. And so go pick up a comic book, everybody.
Yeah, I think that's one of the harder things with more of the modern Marvel stuff is they're responding to fans because fans wanted more like comic accurate representations, but some of the stuff just doesn't play out in live action the way it does in the pages of you take some Thor: Love and Thunder and Gore the God Butcher, or the concept of eternity, or the Eternals, the entire concept of the Eternals.
That didn't really work in comics either. I don't know that I've ever read an Eternals comic. They weren't like a thing. It was a very weird decision to make that a movie, I thought.
Yeah, to go and try to get audiences to buy into the idea that the Earth is just a giant egg. Like, damn.
But like there was precedent for them taking swings at things people hadn't heard of. Nobody had heard of the Guardians of the Galaxy before the Guardians of the Galaxy movie came out. I could have
I thought that was the stupidest damn concept
to you, and you would have been like, I don't know who any of these people are.
Right. And as soon as I did hear who they were, I'm like, this is fucking dumb. I'm supposed to pay attention to a talking raccoon and a tree.
Yeah, exactly. It's a ridiculous concept, but it's execution and personality. That's what I think that's what Marvel really nailed. Their CGI is good, their action scenes are good, but they got the personalities down, and that can bridge a lot of plot holes and narrative like contrivances. They've got the quipping but these characters do have personalities, and I think that's what drives all these movies.
Yeah, I hope they get back to the secret sauce of like letting the movies have a little bit of their own flair.
Yeah.
Like that was one of the things that made the first Avengers movie so revolutionary, was like Captain America, the first Avenger, did not feel like Thor, did not feel like Iron Man. Like all the movies worked as their own style. And then when the Avengers came around, that was the big amazing thing about it, was like, how the hell did they take these three characters that were in three entirely different styles of movie and they made them all work in one team up somehow? Yeah. Like no one felt like their character had tonally shifted to fit the other one's style. Or in fact, it was the clash of styles that paid off all of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I feel like it's got very formulaic game. Like it's just anonymous studio writing stories, and everybody's a smart ass. You know, Carol Danvers is going to have the same quip that Tony Stark would have had, that Marvel Girl has, that one of the Eternals has. You know, it's very cookie cutter with their characterizations now, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a fair criticism. I feel bad because what are we even calling the post Endgame stuff? The multiverse? Is it the multiverse saga?
The multiverse saga. Yeah.
I mean, I respect them for taking a chance. Like that was a big gamble. Like that's a pretty high concept for like tentpole popcorn, $1 billion franchise. You know what I mean? Like that's some pretty, out there stuff. And I hope that it doesn't deter them from making more gambles. But once something makes $1 billion, people are not all that apt to gamble with it, especially when the next gamble doesn't pay off.
Yeah,
take big swings, Marvel. Keep swinging. You don't have to put the entire next wave of several movies on the gamble, but take gambles on the movies. I liked Shang-Chi. I thought Shang-Chi's a pretty good movie. It doesn't really, I think its biggest knock is that it doesn't really have much to do with the greater tapestry of the MCU, and people don't really care about that. And the comics have the same problem sometimes. If you're telling a story over here, it doesn't tie into the bigger picture. You're like, I don't really care. But a good story is a good story. I thought Shang-Chi was a pretty fun, like, oh, what if we had a martial arts movie in a world that is Marvel? And I thought that worked. It wasn't perfect, but it was pretty good. It's the sequels that have been missing. Doctor Strange wasn't great. I haven't seen Thor. It was Love and Thunder no good? I haven't seen that yet.
No good. You take everything that made Ragnarok so like fresh and different and just necessary for Thor, because they made him funny, and he had a personality instead of being this like stoic nothing that he was in the first two movies. And then you just dial that up to like 15 and a half, where he's now a caricature.
That's unfortunate, because the God Butcher storyline in the Thor comics is incredible. And to hear that they may have bungled that is unfortunate. But
well, it's not too much of a spoiler, because like I said, I just name dropped Eternity, for example. So Gore's plan is he wants to go to Eternity, basically. And you get one wish. That's the whole Eternity thing, right? In the comics.
Okay. It's like Eternity, like the entity, like that is the universe, basically.
Yeah, exactly. You get one wish. And it's kind of like the Thanos problem, where like, unfortunately, this is the easiest way to poke a hole, is that the entire Infinity Saga collapses on this one thought. Okay, so I come to this conclusion that there's just too many people in the universe, and you've got all the powers you could possibly have. Why is your solution to wipe out half the universe instead of just double the number of resources?
Sure. Yeah.
So same thing, like Gore is pissed at the gods, so he goes to Eternity because he wants to kill all the gods rather than resurrect his daughter, which is why he's pissed at the gods in the first place.
So that's an interesting change on the story, because the Eternity thing and the wish thing plays no part in it. And basically in this storyline, Thor happens upon like pantheon he hadn't heard of, and like there's nobody there. Like the halls are empty, and he finds out that like the gods that used to be in this pantheon have been killed, and then he finds some more, and he's realizing that like all these different pantheons on different worlds and different universes, these pantheons are being wiped out, and then it turns out that Thor or Gore the God Butcher is doing it, and he is like going like methodically across the universe, just wiping out gods, and it's a pretty
Why?
epic. I think he was pissed because like his whole family and his whole world got killed because the gods of his planet didn't intervene or take care.
That's his motivation in the movie too.
So it works as a motivation, but to your point, if he can wish it back, then that really that undercuts the motivations. There was no such wishing; it was just revenge. It was just pure unadulterated rage, which is there's precedent for that in storytelling. But it's a cool story, and it like not only that, but it like takes place in 3 different timelines. You're looking at young Thor before he was worthy enough to hold the hammer. You're talking about current day Thor, and then they've got King Thor, where he's like the last god living, with just like 3 granddaughters and missing an eye and an arm, and kind of and all 3 like timelines kind of like converge as the story goes on. It's a great fucking story. It's by Jason Aaron.
Yeah, so you go and summarize this stuff. It sounds amazing. I don't know if it dies in execution, that can totally happen. But as a concept, it is really cool. And you're right. That's one of those things that like you try making one movie out of that, for example, and that's the other knock on everything Marvel is like they take like, well, the Infinity Saga or Civil War, and now they got to make a 2-hour movie out of it when it was this multi-year spanning crossover event. Like, well,
Civil War.
You're going to have some streamlining, man. It's just there's no way to tell that story in the full scope that it was originally told.
Civil War in the comics is one of the biggest crossovers. Like, I mean, there were so many issues involved in that. And I always thought Captain America Civil War is not a bad flick, but like they came kind of early with Civil War. You only had like 7 characters, and you introduced half of them in that movie. Like, that's not a Civil War. That's friends not getting along, like it just the number of characters didn't really kind of match with the scope of something called Civil War to me.
Well, yeah, if they called it Captain America, boy, that was a kerfluffle. I don't think it would have really had the same sting to it, not as punchy.
They like to pull titles from comics and plug them into the movies, even if they don't like really relate. I don't know why they like to do that, but they really do.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to hook the diehards with that.
Yeah,
which ultimately backfires because, like you said, they alter it to such a degree because the MCU has its own lore at this point. They've taken so many liberties with the source material that now they're riffing on their own riffs.
Yeah,
so it bears almost no resemblance to its original source material, but it does make like your ears perk up. You heard Civil War, you're like, oh shit, that's a great comic series, I should go see what the movie's like, and then you walk out pissed off, but they got your money.
I think it does a disservice to people that want to go from movies to comics though, like because I could be like, oh, you should read Planet Hulk. It's great story. Like, well, I saw Planet Hulk in the Thor movie. It's like, no, they gave you like 10 minutes of Planet Hulk. Like, Planet Hulk is like I think it's a 14 issue, like year-long story in Incredible Hulk that is just incredible. It's basically like Gladiator, but Hulk, and it's so good. And like, they should have done a whole movie for it, but they gave us, 10 minutes of a Thor movie to tell that whole story. And they made it a Thor story instead of a Hulk story. But it's a good movie. Like, it's fine. It's a good movie. I'm not mad at it. But it's like, man, like, go read that book. Somebody go read Planet Hulk. It's fantastic. And it leads into World War Hulk, which is just like summer blockbuster comics. It's so good.
So which way, we'll wrap up with this. Which way do you come down on this? Where some people, they want the verbatim, they want to see that comic book come to life on the big screen. the counter argument is you've already got that story. It's
I've
right
got
there
that
in the
story.
comic
I've read
book.
that story. I know that story. I don't need it to be comics accurate. I'm more concerned with like, does that feel like Captain America? Does that feel like Tony Stark? Does that like, and I feel like they nailed. You know, for the most part, there's some, you know, that I don't love. Mostly it's like villains. I'm like, I don't know why they made that choice, but I don't need to see beat for beat the stories that are in my books because I have the books. I've read the books, and I like not knowing where it's gonna go. I don't have to love it, but I don't know. I can see where people like, I want to see this story beat for beat. Like, I can see where they're coming from. I just want to see it in live action. I guess there's a market for that, but they're doing cartoons in live action, telling the same stories but twice as long. So clearly some people like it, but I have the debut of the Winter Soldier in the comics, and I can read that anytime I want. So I don't care how they do it in the thing, as long as it's cool, and it was cool. So
yeah, the other reason I don't understand the backlash against that kind of stuff is it comics like reboots and retcons. Like the storylines are always changing whenever the writers come up with another idea that they want to tell. I mean, it's
right.
how many X-Men #1s have there been? You know, just restart the numbering. It's a new continuity now. Or this is Ultimate Spider-Man, not Amazing Spider-Man, so on and so on and so on. So like this is just like another facet. It's another riff on the same general theme.
Well, comics fans love to talk about canon, right? Like what's canon and what isn't canon.
Right. Yeah.
But I saw somebody argue one time that like every writer's canon is just the stories that they've read. So if they grew up reading different Captain America issues than you grew up reading, their canon's going to be different in their head. So they're going to write different stories than you would write. And I mean, sometimes they'll like play, but everybody's got their like, oh, I don't like this story, so why would I reference that story if I'm writing? You know what I mean? Like I hated those issues of Captain America. I'm not going to write about them if I got to write Captain America.
Yeah, exactly. It's like these stories have been running for decades. So unless you know every single story and you have some way to tie them all into one seamless continuity, which it does not happen. That's why they've had stuff like Secret Wars and whatnot, where they just
Grant Morrison pulled that trick off with Batman, and it's a dense, hard to read story that is excellent, but I would never put into the hands of a new reader because it is just that's too much for anybody to know. I don't even know half the things he's referencing in it. So, if
all right, well, Joe,
yeah. Sorry, man.
You wrap up your point there.
I was just gonna say, if everything's in continuity, that's more than most people know. You know, there's a lot to fall back on. But anyway,
yeah, everybody wants stuff to connect and always be like this perfectly seamless continuity. But I get what writers are saying, even in Hollywood, and that's nothing like the burden that comic book writers have, where they're like, there's so much crap that's been told. It just locks us in so hard on what we can and can't do because so many stories have been told. At some point, your story collapses under the weight of every other one that it has to respect.
Yeah.
So you have to build in plot devices to wipe the slate clean every now and again. Have a universe resetting event. Have a multiverse where all of a sudden you're in a different facet. You know, whatever you got to come up with just so you can say like, look, I don't know what the last 60 years of this character was. Here's a fresh start.
A good story is a good story.
I can't read comics now. I cannot read comics now because I don't know what the hell I'm reading when I jump into a series at this point.
Well, if I was going to get you into comics, I would hand you runs. I'd be like, here's Jason Aaron writing Thor. You don't need to know what came before that. You don't need to know what happens after it. You've got, because a lot, like, especially in modern comics, very often writers kind of like come in, do their own thing, and then finish their story, and then it goes on to the next one. And sometimes it refers back to what came before. Like Daredevil had like 3 writers kind of hand off over a course of a number of years. But a lot of times it's just like, we wrote this Captain America series for 5 years, and we kind of set it up to hand to the next guy. We reset it, or it's apt to reset, or, you know, but like, don't be intimidated by what came before. Just read, you know, an era. Like, oh, Ed Brubaker wrote Captain America for 10 years, introduced the Winter Soldier, killed Captain America for a minute, brought him back because that's comics, because he was shot with a time travel gun, not a real gun. Spoiler. And,
Yeah.
like,
So
just,
is he really dead or just in a different time period?
he was falling through time.
So it's kind of like in Thor Ragnarok where Doctor Strange just like puts Loki in a portal and he's just falling for 30 minutes while, Doctor Strange talks to Thor.
Yeah, something like that, kind of. Yeah. But
Great line, by the way. I have been falling for 30 minutes. Anyway,
your reading of it also great.
thank you.
Mhm.
I'm a trained thespian. Oh, very much not. Listen, Joe, this was fantastic, man. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. You are absolutely welcome to come on tomorrow or Wednesday if you want. I don't know if your wife will allow that, but open door policy on the Nerf Herder Council. Anytime we're doing Marvel stuff and you want to hop on, absolutely. I mean, we don't know the comics nearly like you do, so I love the perspective that you bring to this stuff. Any final thoughts or anything you want to say before we sign off here?
No, thanks for having me. It was fun. It's my first ever podcast. It was a good time. And I love comics.
Yeah, man, you know what you're talking about, especially when it comes to music. So maybe you should hit up my brother and get on to Talking Into Infinity or something. They're always riffing on stuff that's not Dream Theater.
I love music, and your brother loves music, but the Venn diagram of music that we both love is
it's
skinny.
True.
It's skinny.
It's true. Maybe you guys can just go toe to toe on the age old debate of Foo Fighters versus Nirvana, which is the better Dave Grohl band.
Oh my. Whew. It's Nirvana.
The Hitters. I know you love the 90s, so. All right, man. I'm gonna go ahead and put you in the green room for a second. Let me do my sign-offs here, and then we will catch up for a minute after the show, okay?
All right, sounds good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. All right, so there you have it. The first 2 episodes of Falcon and Winter Soldier in the books. Remember, we are doing the watch along of episode 3 and 4 tomorrow night on the same platforms at 8 p.m. Eastern time. That'll run until about 10 p.m. again, just like tonight. And then on Wednesday, we have our regular bi-weekly Nerf Herder Council show that will be co-hosted, of course, with my brother JT. And we'll be watching episodes 5 and 6 of the series to wrap that up and get us all primed for Falcon and not Falcon and Winter Soldier, Captain America Brave New World, coming out in theaters on Thursday of this week. So if you want to get a hold of the show, we've got all of our socials here down along the bottom. We also have a merch store at shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. You can get any number of our lovely, lovely logos. I hate saying that because I designed them myself, so it sounds very, very self-aggrandizing. But you can get Nerf Herder Council swag in any number of colors and garments. Coffee mugs look great. I have personal experience with that. Stickers look great. So anything you want up there from the show, you can go ahead and buy that at shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. Go ahead and hit us up on Patreon or Discord, on X, on Blue Sky. We are on all those platforms in addition to our Facebook page. And with another episode of Nerf Herder Council has come to a close. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will catch you next time.